Hey, how's it going, folks? My name's Dave, and I recently got my hands on one of these. It's called a Lumatone, and I'd love to tell you about it. So, a couple months ago, this instrument came in the mail, and almost immediately it started rewiring my brain. Certainly in terms of how I thought about music theory, but also how I write and perform music on an intuitive level. The fine folks over at Lumatone have asked me to make a series of videos breaking down some of the possibilities this instrument has to offer. Now, these videos are going to be coming from the standpoint of somebody who deeply loves music and has a strong passion for composing and arranging, but I am not a mystical wizard in music theory. Nor am I a highly technical player that can melt your face with some slaying lead lines. But what we'll demonstrate here is you don't have to be Herbie Hancock to find your way around this thing. Though if you are Herbie Hancock, you should probably check this out as well. So, where to start? Well, it's a MIDI controller with 280 hexagonal keys. We got colors, we got shapes, we got dancing lights. But most importantly, you can assign any MIDI note and any color to any key you see fit. A good place to start is the presets. In my opinion, the 12-tone Boson Cat layout is the simplest and most obvious place to start. It takes the 12 notes of the chromatic scale and maps them out in a familiar and comforting piano layout. Here the white keys represent the naturals from C to B, where the blue keys represent the sharps. But what makes the Lumatone special is now we have the added bonus of being able to move around isomorphically, meaning play any chord, say an E minor 9, take that exact shape, move it to any other key to play another minor 9 chord. Instant mediocre jazz. Now it kind of feels like we're just playing the piano like a guitar, just moving around in shapes. And this works for scales and melodies too. But there are all sorts of creative ways that we can lay the notes out on a Lumatone that completely reimagine what we're used to. For example, one of my personal favorites is the harmonic table, which lays the keys out by common intervals ascending on the different diagonal axes of the Lumatone, with fifths ascending on this axis, major thirds here, minor thirds, and semitones ascending on this axis. The result here is isomorphic musical perfection. And with the help of the colors, patterns are pretty quickly realized. So now we can play larger chords all within a short reach. Like an F major 7 with the added 9 and sharp 11 can all be played within this space. And now that you know that pattern, you can easily arpeggiate that chord by just letting the light guide you. While it's quick to pick up, it does kind of push you out of your comfort zone, and it gets you discovering progressions and melodies that you weren't really reaching for before. But the Lumatone isn't just about visualizing and playing notes. You know, apart from being able to assign any note to any key and color code them using all of the power of God's rainbow, you can also take advantage of its many expressive modes. Take, for example, its ability to turn any key into a continuous controller. Now, on a traditional MIDI keyboard, we're used to controlling our instrument's parameters with a fader or a mod wheel. But when you're playing with two hands, this can prove to be difficult. I mean, sure, there are ways. But it's not always that convenient. On a Lumatone, every key can also be transformed into a continuous controller. Now we can choose to put the CC on the keyboard itself, anywhere we want, where it makes sense with how we're performing. And on top of that, it also has polyphonic aftertouch, allowing each individual key to trigger a parameter after further pressure is applied beyond the travel of the key. To take that a step further, the folks over at Lumatone invented a new mode of expression. It's called Lumatouch. When this is engaged, once you trigger aftertouch, it converts your entire key into a continuous controller while you're still playing your note or chord, making the speed at which you release the key further control your given parameter. I've found this starts to promote a whole new style of playing. The feedback you get as you move from key to key starts to become really inspiring in a pretty intuitive way. So coming back to the note mappings, once you move past the chromatic layouts, you'll find you start to enter the alternate dimension of microtonality. Now, as someone who is not a microtonalist, but has always wanted to find a way into this world, I am tickled pink and blue and red and yellow to find that there is an accessible way into this new realm of tones and pitches. So for those of you unfamiliar with microtonality, to put it extremely simply, it's basically using the infinite palette of pitches that live between the chromatic notes that we're used to. While we don't have time to get into it in this video, here's a simple example of how a microtonal scale can be laid out on the Lumatone. Here's the 31 tet bosun ket layout. While using the same familiar piano layout as before, we're now splitting the octave up by 31 notes instead of 12. So now that minor 9 chord we played before can now find a new home in a sea of pitches that we previously didn't have access to. So when we split the octave up by 31 notes, also known as 31 EDO, or 31 equal divisions of the octave, one whole step now contains 5 tones. So from C to D, we now have what? So this opens up a whole new world of chords that have always existed, but your childhood music teacher never told you about. Chords like sub-minors and super majors, neutral thirds, super augmented chords, yes please. Unfortunately, we do not have time to get into all these mystery chords that will change the way you think about music, but stay tuned. So fully covering this keyboard's capabilities is a journey. So we'll start slow, and in the coming days, we'll cover the basics and work our way up to the more advanced possibilities. We'll even bring in some of the brilliant minds of the microtonal world to show us how it's done. So if you want to follow along, be sure to like and subscribe. And ding that bell to be notified anytime we cover a new aspect of this new musical tool.